We made this.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello and welcome everyone to Shipwrecked and Comatose, the Red Dwarf podcast here on the We Made This podcast network. My name is Kurt North, and joining us for this week of frivolity and lemon squeezing and all kinds is Mark Adams and Colin Jackson Brown. Mark, you're eating a double-decker. You know it's not the right thing to be doing. You need to be eating a Mars bar. But
I love a double-decker.
In other words, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I've just had an argument with my housemate about what's better, double-decker or Mars bar, and obviously it's double-decker. Other than that, I'm really good.
Well, it's been polled on your Twitter at the moment. When this comes out, we'll have to poll it again on the Red Dwarf feed and just see who actually... I mean, you could put Topic Bar in there as well, couldn't you?
Only if you're from the 70s.
Can you even still get a Topic?
I don't think you can.
Or Toffee Crisp.
Oh, I love a coffee crisp.
I love a go. Yes, we are here. A few days ago, actually, ironically, unfortunately, Colin was a bit ill last few days ago, so we're actually recording as if it's in real time, which is really bizarre. A few days ago is actually a few days ago. So, Colin, how are you feeling?
That's never happened before, has it?
That's never happened before.
We've always lied.
Exactly. How are you feeling, Colin? Are you all right?
It's too many lemons, I think, to be honest, mate. But yeah, no, I'm all right. I'm slightly croaky, but yeah. We'll go with it. It'll be all right.
Okay. You've had a couple of days to think about it. How have you managed to pass Red Dwarf 10 in its title credits then? What are you thinking generally before we move on?
Got lemons in it.
It's got lemons in it.
That's my main takeaway.
We know that.
I'm really excited. Yeah. Genuinely excited. Can't wait to get it watched.
That's my real answer. I'm really looking forward to it.
So, yeah, I mean, Red Dwarf, as I say, Red Dwarf 10 coming back. Since we've been recording it as well, because we had the opportunity, I did have a quick look afterwards and did see that it was a model, Red Dwarf, and the camera angles on it. And as I say, when you see the beginning of Trojan, it just looks great. It does. I mean, just looks amazing.
That's the one about condoms, right?
Trojan. Yes, yeah. I think so. So, today we're going to be looking at Red Dwarf 11.
Just the credits, though.
Just the credits. So
yeah, not the whole thing.
Because I'm unprofessional, I've not looked at when Red Dwarf 11 aired compared to Red Dwarf 10. So it was recorded Red Dwarf 11 in 2015 and was broadcast in 2016. So whereas Red Dwarf 10 was aired in 2012. So between 2012 and 2016. So a few years had passed. And 11 and 12 were filmed back to back as well, but had a year gap in between.
Good grief. What? So they recorded 12 episodes and split it into 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Good grief.
It did indeed.
What was the reason for that? To save money on the studio costs or something like that?
I'm assuming. I mean, I haven't looked at it in any detail because I'm sure we'll get to talk about it in the actual show, but I'm assuming just purely because they had a commission for 2 series and it makes sense.
Yeah. If you've got everyone there, if everything's written and ready, it makes sense to do the 2 series at the same time. You do get that. I've heard of other series recording 2 series at a time. It means you don't have the 2 or 3 year wait for the next one, and people can lose interest and lose momentum and stuff like that in between if there's a massive gap. Whereas if you've got it ready to go for the next year, you're going to keep that momentum.
Yeah. And
it will still be fresh in people's minds when the next series is ready to come out then.
But I don't think Red Dwarf ever suffered from that, though, because there were huge gaps between 6 and 7, and then there's quite a big gap between 7 and 8, and then obviously they fucking relaunched the whole thing on Dave, and it did well.
But you say that, and then 2 of the 3 of us both lapsed from watching Red Dwarf.
Good point, well made.
Part of the reason that I lapsed from it is because I'd got older, and it hadn't been a constant part of my life. That's why up until Series 6, I used to watch the episodes constantly. And then after that, Series 7 and 8, I watched when they were broadcast. And then never again until we did the podcast episodes about them. And then Back to Earth put me the fuck off it, and I didn't bother with it after that.
Well, we know it was all in the master plan because, we'd seen into the future. Future Echoes had already said to you, Stu, that you were going to be watching Red Dwarf 10, 11, and 12 separately to some people you've never met before about this show, and you couldn't watch it. I mean, that was what happened, wasn't it, effectively?
It's a shame it was a Future Echo, to be honest with you, because if it had been like a time-traveling me, I'd have had sex with him.
Okay.
But I couldn't touch the Future Echoes me, remember?
It's when I ended up coming out of Colin's table and says, Colin, I don't want to worry you right now. And then
Mushrooms.
Okay, well, as I say, we are here to look at Red Dwarf 11, the title credits, because as Mark alluded to last time, that I kept forgetting to watch these, and even like now, I just let them rush over me. So it's amazing to see some of the things that you pulled out of the credits, actually, because there's a few bits that you mentioned. And I was like, okay, interesting discussion to be had. And I've kept myself stum as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy listening back to these, actually, when we've watched it and go, well, you were all right on that. What a bell end. You were so wrong on that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do this. Let's dive straight in now. And one comment that you both made, which made me chuckle last time, was you were going, there doesn't seem to be any Starbug.
Yep, and it's the first thing you see on this one.
It's the very first thing you can see on this one.
Yeah, there's a Starbug.
Starbug's back.
Yeah, and I actually put that in my notes. Starbug. So it didn't go unnoticed.
Emerging out of the atmosphere on like an Earth-like.
You see, I wanted to talk about that. Is that Earth? Do they get to some kind of version of Earth? Now, in the books, Earth is a rubbish planet, isn't it? It's like garbage world. So I sincerely doubt they would make that kind of a deep cut, but that would be great if they got back to Earth and it was garbage world.
Okay. I'm doing that whole thing straight off the bat going, I'm not going to say anything.
But I mean, so they are still on Red Dwarf because we see Red Dwarf, we see Starbug. So even if they do get back to Earth, it's not a major plot point about it, is it?
Yeah.
In the next couple of scenes, you've got Lister, who comes out with a bazookoid screaming.
With a torch on it.
With a
bazookoid with a fucking mounted torch.
That's a reference to Alien?
That's exactly what I've got. Aliens rather than Alien. There are lots in these credits alluding to aliens, and it looks like they are upping the action level in the credits for this one.
I was pleased to see a bazookoid, which again is very kind of old style Red Dwarf. So they're keeping with what we like, what's established. I'm trying to think if there was bazookoids in Series 8. There probably wasn't because they probably weren't allowed them.
I can't remember. They might have had them on the Canary.
But they weren't as much of a focus as they had been in Series 6 when they were essentially free as opposed to prisoners.
Series 8, when they were the Canaries, that was more like Alien 3 where they didn't have weapons.
True.
Yeah. There's a recurring theme. I think in seasons 1 to 6, there might have been some aliens illusions as well.
It's always been a big influence, definitely.
Yeah.
But that tiny little scene where you see him going out and screaming whilst holding a bazookoid, it just made me think of the let's get out there and twat it moment. Yeah. So I don't think he was it doesn't look like he's kind of had something happen to him. Or does it? Could it be another? No, it's not going to be as obvious as another emo hawk, is it? I just wonder if they're going to be going back a lot. What we haven't seen yet is a Dwayne Dibley or an Ace Rimmer on last week's episode or this one. And I don't think, looking at my notes, we do see any of the classic Back to Reality characters in either series, which I don't know whether to be pleased or disappointed about that.
There's some things that I think point towards something like that.
I've got a feeling I might know what you're going to say, but we'll leave it there. So we do see a ship being blown up again. I think something that's kind of crosses over from 10 and 11.
Looks a bit like a cock, though.
It does.
Penis ship.
With the balls being blown
It's a rocket.
Yeah.
It is a rocket.
Yeah, but it's got a bell end.
Fair enough.
That's where he goes to. Anyway, let's move on from that then.
Yeah.
No, it's nice to see the models, quite seriously. And I like that they've invested in models. And again, the production quality looks like it's not going to disappoint me, because that was one of my biggest fears, was a dip in production quality.
Like I said last time, they've got less budget, but they've got the experience where they've learned how to make that go further. And, you know, they've got less effects budget, but they've also got the advances in technology over the decades that they've been doing it, which will also help them.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it looks like it's going to look great.
So we have Chris Barry, again, title credits like we mentioned the other day. That,
Yep.
you know, we've got the names on the title credits.
Yep.
In the ship, putting his fist in his mouth.
But that's a classic Rimmer, isn't it? The kind of,
Yes.
oh shit, he puts his fist in his mouth. So consistency is good, etc., etc.
Yeah.
What do you think to the blues in general and kind of the set design at this point?
Well, it looks like they're on a blue alert at that point.
Did they change the bulb?
They've changed a lot of fucking bulbs by the looks of it. There are a lot of blue lights there.
Right. The next scene we've got, Crichton appears to be in some form of red outfit.
He looks like a Power Ranger.
I got more Tron vibes from that than Power Ranger.
I can see the Tron vibes too.
And he's also dancing as well.
It's him and Kat are dancing together, aren't they?
They are. What do you think?
Disco Crichton.
I don't know. Is it some kind of AR, or is it that he's just got a new outfit and he's happy? Or yeah, maybe they find some kind of ship where there's lots of Crichton parts, and we get an episode where there's spare heads, or there's, I don't know. I literally just wrote Power Ranger Crichton in my notes with a question mark.
Okay, well, what I should do, and I'm sure we might talk about this when we come to watching this episode, is it's very Iron Man in the actual thing, because of the way the gold is on the
Red
top
and gold,
stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the actual about the show itself, but the actual costume design, and it's only just dawned on me by watching it with a pause screen, is that it's very Iron Man, isn't it? It's got the, you know, the heart-shaped thing on his chest. And
The arc reactor.
Yeah, the arc reactor, yeah.
It almost looks like he's on his way to Comic-Con.
Yeah.
That's his costume.
Someone's going to have to go to Dimension Jump wearing that, aren't they? Yeah, that'll be fun. So yes, that's Crichton. So again, we've got the blues in the background as well, and we've got Craig Charles and Rimmer and Chris Barry as Lister and Rimmer. You in some sort of attire,
Film noir detective kind of things.
It's got to be the follow-up to Gunman of the Apocalypse, isn't it? I think this has got to be AR. They've got to have some kind of situation where they all end up being in AR for a reason, and this time it's 50s set.
It's the same one with Loretta, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's going to be, could even have Loretta in it, or it will certainly be that. Well, Sammy the Squib, etc., etc. So I think it's got to be that, and I think that's a really cool thing if it is. But it's also a really cool thing if it isn't, and there's another reason why they're dressed up like gangsters.
Yeah. I would like it if Jake Bullitt also turns up in that then.
Okay. And then we have obviously, we've got Starbug. We have to see Starbug crash, don't we?
Yes.
But it looks very Star Warsy in its background. That looks like a kind of a Star Wars planet, like Tatooine or something like that.
Okay. And then we move to Lister shooting Cat.
I had not seen that it was Cat.
And it's a big explodium green mess. I
had not realised that was the same scene. I thought that was two different scenes. Right, okay. So, because it's two different shots.
Yeah.
So I'd not collated them together. Lister wearing sort of snowsuit kind of thing in a very The Thing sort of style, where if that is him shooting the cat and he explodes into green goo, perhaps it is a Thing themed episode where one of the members of the crew is an imposter alien, and that's a massive spoiler of which one it will be.
Yeah, and I think I was going to say actually that explosion felt very kind of 80s horror, reminded me to some extent of the head explosion in Scanners.
You've gone a lot harder than what it reminded me of.
Go on.
Do you remember the early 90s, I think it was, Australian kids TV program Round the Twist?
Yes. I did an episode of Right in the Childhood.
Yeah. So there's an episode. Did you do the mushrooms episode?
No.
Do you remember the mushrooms episode?
I am getting recollections now you're talking about.
There's an episode where they go into the woods and there's a load of weird mushrooms that make little weird noises. and then these mushrooms turn into replicas of people or things. But then they explode in a really similar style to that. And it was like, that's round the twist.
I mean, we could do a special on Round the Twist if it is that, because I really like Round the Twist.
Oh my God, you managed to find a special in a title sequence where you have no idea what's going to happen, and you managed to find a special. How does that work?
I love a special, me.
Well, to be fair, he got Gap of the Triphibian Monster from a title
Well,
sequence.
he did.
I did.
So anyway, let's move on. We've then got that scene. It seems to be in some sort of medical attire.
Yeah, they're all in scrubs.
They're in scrubs.
Yeah.
What are you making to this?
Well, you've got Lister, Crichton and Rimmer in scrubs, so that would suggest that they might be operating on the cat.
Yeah, something's happened to the cat. It could be linked to the green explodium cat as well.
Yeah.
Green explodium cat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I like that. Okay.
I just like the word explodium. It's just one of the greatest words that isn't real.
It is a good word.
Okay, moving on. Crichton punches Lister.
He absolutely sparks him as well.
In the face.
So I've got no idea how or why it happens, but I really like the idea of it happening and finding out why, because it's completely against what we expect of Crichton. And if you look at his face, it almost looks like a kind of like a boxer concentrating, maybe. So is it some kind of boxing training that he's doing and he accidentally hits him, and then very shortly after he pulls one of his kind of neurotic faces, "Oh, Mr. Lister, I'm sorry," something like that?
I think he looks really offended. I think Lister has offended him, and he's offended him so much that Crichton's actually snapped and punched him. That's what that face says to me.
Interesting.
So we've both got very different opinions.
Yeah.
That could both be spectacularly wrong.
Yes.
This is the reason why we're doing this, folks.
Yep.
Oh dear.
Okay.
I can hear everyone laughing at our ridiculousness.
This is the thing. I wonder how many of our listeners, I would imagine probably the majority of our listeners, have now watched more Red Dwarf than we have.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because they will have most likely watched the later series already.
And here's the thing. I would have watched them immediately if I was allowed to. I am glad that we decided to do it this way, but fucking hell, I've been champing at the bit. Particularly since we finished Series 8. I was like, I want more Red Dwarf. So I'm glad we did it this way, but I also want to watch it.
Well, as I say, we'll be watching 10. We'll watch all of them together, whether it be on a Zoom night or whatever, but 10 needs to be in the same building.
All right.
And 11, and there's some things that happen in 11. Honestly, I watched, the last episode of, I think it was 12, potentially. And there's something that happens in there that I just absolutely howl with laughter. It is ridiculously funny. Ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, but it's funny,
Good.
And it's like, I can't wait to see your reactions on it. I just think it's going to be amazing to see, either the pure disgust on your faces or just how much you might come along the ride. So I think that's what's going to be marvelous for me for these next few seasons. It's going to be great. Okay. So he's punched him in the face. The next thing we see then is Rimmer getting transported away and Cat and Lister getting shot. Yeah,
the shoot thing is very similar to Back to Earth, where they all went through that window and they all got shot by, Doug Naylor. And that's interesting that so soon afterwards they've done such a similar scene.
I think you can vaguely see that there might be a simulant behind them in this scene.
Maybe you can see something. Yeah, you can't really see too much.
But you can see a gunshot.
You can see a gunshot, yeah. I know what I'm looking for, and I can't see what I would normally expect to see. So another thing with this is, as well, just for me, from a perspective of the colours, I think that they've used quite a lot of colour wheeling in this series as well, because you've got the greens in this one.
Yeah.
So the contrast is quite thing.
And I would guess they do that across all 12 episodes of 11 and 12, probably, because if they're filmed together, I have a feeling it could have just been one 12-episode series, perhaps.
I think it was probably always planned to be 2 series.
It was planned, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then we've got some form of ship entering the sea.
Yeah, I was trying to work out whether it's the same rocket that we saw explode earlier.
I don't think it is, because it has a different bell end. I didn't know so I was serious until I said the word bell end.
Yeah. I don't think it is.
No, it's not. It's got different bell end and balls. It's definitely not the same ship.
Okay.
Fair.
We then get Kat and Rimmer.
Yeah, similar scene with the 50s thing, the gangsters.
Yeah. And then you've got Lister with a pineapple.
Decontaminating it.
Decontaminating the pineapple.
Oh, I thought he was fighting a pineapple.
It could be either. I think that may be a sequel to Lemons.
There's an episode called Pineapples.
We shall find out in a few minutes. So how are you feeling about the pineapple then? What are you thinking?
He looks fucking scared of that pineapple. Like, really fucking scared of it. So the more I think about it, the more I think there might be a fucking polymorph.
Funny you should say poly. I read a thing on the internet earlier that apparently pineapples are a sign that people use to indicate that they're swingers. So that could be going in a completely different direction for that episode. Apparently so.
The friends I know that are swingers, I tend to know that they're swingers by saying that we're swingers.
Yeah. It might be that they want to be slightly more subtle with other people.
You haven't met my friends.
No, this is true.
Right. Okay, so the pineapple is then over, and Kat's doing his dancing, as he always does.
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen, grabbing something out of a fridge, I think.
So already we're like, 20 seconds in? We've seen 3 different outfits for the cat, which I'm all about. I really like that each episode he's got a different outfit. And that's, again, classic dwarf, going back to where each episode he has a different look, and it all goes back to like the first episode or second episode where it's like he'd never wear the same suit twice, doesn't he, at some point? So
to be fair, canonically, he could have 3 different outfits in one scene.
Yes.
That's who he is.
That's true. And then we get Starbug racing out of something that's exploding.
Yep, more explodium.
More explodium.
All about the explodium.
Yep.
And then Rimmer in a blue haze, looking really quite scared.
Yes, in peril.
Those are the flariest Rimmer nose flares I think I've ever seen. He must have been practicing.
They're not Rimmer nose flares, they're Rimmer nose bell bottoms.
Very good.
What could be happening there, do you think?
Well, it looks like he's being zapped by some kind of blue thing.
Oh, it's a fucking polymorph. It's a polymorph. It's that kind of face. It has to be. There's a polymorph in this series.
It does look like a polymorph face, doesn't it?
There's a polymorph.
Are we thinking there's a polymorph in this series?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't until we went through this together, but now there's got to be a polymorph. I think there's a polymorph, and it's an evil pineapple.
Right. Okay. We know from things that the other 3 have said that there are things from earlier series that come back in later episodes of the Dave ones from really early BBC ones.
We have said that, yes.
Do you reckon that's the second polymorph? That we never really found out what had happened. They did a little retcon thingy at the time, but...
Oh, I hope so.
It could be.
Well, we shall see. Okay, we then get Rimmer with a bazookoid, with the, as you say, the torch, nice little touch, but then some sort of thing hitting Crichton in the face.
Yeah, some little green goo thing.
There's 3, isn't there? There's like a blue, red, and green.
Oh,
one.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've just clicked on there. So
They're like little poison dart thingies, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I love the way that Rimmer is using Crichton's shoulder to rest the barrel of the bazookoid on to steady.
He's using him as a brace.
Yeah.
No, that makes no sense. If it was Lister, it could be Crichton getting in the way to prevent him from getting hit by tranquilizer darts. But those darts wouldn't do anything to Rimmer because he's hard light, and hitting him in the head wouldn't hit the light bee.
Yeah.
They do look like tranquilizer darts, though.
They do.
It's a polymorph, and what he's doing is he's turned into a tranquilizer gun, and he's fired them, and everything's a fucking lemons.
it's the lemons of season 10. Right, and then we have a barbershop quartet, all of which are Rimmer.
So they look like the B Sharps from The Simpsons, and I'm all about it.
That is exactly what my note says here.
So what do you think you are going to get here? What do you honestly think? Because it's quite easy to work out what you're going to get.
I mean, it's going to be some kind of They've already done Rimmer World.
Yeah.
Is it Rimmer World 2? There's Polymorph 3 and Rimmer World 2 in this series.
Well, I was thinking you're going to get a new song, aren't you? That's all I was aiming for. You're going to have a barbershop quartet of a Rimmer singing.
Do you think they might sing the Munchkin song together as a barber quartet? Oh, I can feel Matt masturbating as we talk about the song from Blue.
I'm sure he's out at a gig tonight rather than out in Manchester.
If there's a second one of that fucking Rimmer song, Matt will be over the moon. And I kind of hope that there is for him. I love him.
Is there anything else you want to mention about this barbershop quartet?
Nice hats.
The background reminds me of the restaurant in Better Than Life.
I was going to say the same thing. Shit, a brick.
Yeah, it really looks like where Rimmer is the admiral and some kid comes up and asks him for his autograph. It looks like that restaurant. If it isn't, it's a similar sort of establishment.
Okay, moving on. We have Lister and the cat walking down a corridor.
Again, with the bazookoids with the torches on. So they've all got a torch bazooka. There's definitely some kind of aliens motif here with all of them involved.
Yeah. There is in the trailer, which we're not showing because we did ask you before.
No, we didn't.
The other day, you're not going to watch anything like that at all. This scene is included in the actual trailer.
Right.
So, which is why I was going to ask you if you wanted to watch it or not. But we're not going to do that. We're going to go completely stone cold Steve Austin into this. So, okay. We then have Cat with some glow sticks and what looks like another character.
It's Lister, isn't it?
Lister, yeah. Lister with Lister and Cat holding glow sticks to the faces.
Yeah, clearly looking quite worried. So perhaps the rave that they are at is not very well organised. I think that might be the issue there. They've let too many people in. It's over capacity. There's not enough toilets. The queues for the bar are absolutely ridiculous. It's very badly organised rave.
Good.
Fair dues. And then we get a glass jar blowing up.
Yeah, it's either pickles, potatoes, or internal organs.
Out of the three, it's probably internal organs, isn't it?
I've got all three in my fridge. Actually, no, I haven't. Who the fuck puts potatoes in the fridge?
Serial killers normally put tongues in the fridge. Have you got a tongue in your fridge?
Only when I slam it in the door. That'd hurt.
What?
Okay.
I don't know. It was a weird question. I went with a weird answer.
Moving on there. Right. So we've got Cat in a pink suit with two guns looking really mad.
And a bit like a granny. I've put Granny Cat with two guns.
Dual wielding granny.
Yeah, dual wielding granny.
He seems like he's got a very evil looking face and a very not fashionable dress sense and hair.
It's the polymorph. The polymorph has done something to the cat to make him look like a granny wielding two guns.
And if that is the case, as much as we love Dwayne Dibley, I'm so glad that they've done something else this time.
Yeah, you're right.
It's badass. Then we get all four of them in a building somewhere. The ceiling falls in.
Yep.
Some explosions and Starbug flying away. Overall thoughts of this one, because you seem to have pulled more out of this one than you did in 10.
I'm slightly less delirious tonight because I'm not ill.
I think it's slightly more obvious because we're fans of something that's clearly coming back if we've got that right. I think what's interesting is that Crichton, because of the nature of the makeup, hasn't aged, which is good. Whereas, something like Data in Star Trek, he really fucking aged, which isn't ideal. And they had to write around that. Whereas I think it's nice that the makeup has managed to make him stay completely ageless while the rest of the cast aged. It's unfortunate they couldn't do something with Rimmer because, he doesn't look like he used to. And you would have thought a hologram wouldn't age either.
We're normally praising him for the really good acting, but I think that's a failure in the acting of Chris Barry. I think Chris Barry should have been better at acting looking younger.
You're an idiot.
Oh, dear. Okay. So, should we go through episode titles?
Go for it.
Do it.
Pineapples. Lemons too.
Lemons 2, pineapples. The polymorph returns.
Don't put pineapples up your colon.
Red Dwarf 11, 2016. Episode 1. Twentica.
Twentica.
Spelled Twentica. Twentica.
Right.
Twentica.
Doesn't give much away, does it?
No.
Because it's a made-up word. Obviously, 20 of something.
Twentica.
Do they get the time paddle and they go back to about 2001-ish when it's the 20th anniversary of Metallica's early gigs? So it's Twentica instead of Metallica.
I think it's definitely a play on something that ends in Ica and there being 20 of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Probably not Metallica, but something like that.
Okay.
I got nothing on Twentica. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Episode 2. Samsara.
That one might have been more appropriate for the one where they were wearing the Moroccan outfits in last episode.
I was thinking Indiana Jones, but that's Sankara stones, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but this is satire, so it's probably...
Yeah.
Could be.
I think Samsara is probably going to be the name of a character that they meet.
Okay.
I think Twentica is going to be the name of a character that they meet.
This is going to be the...
I think Lemons is going to be the name of a character.
Okay. Episode 3. Give and Take.
That's got to be the polymorph one, because they take and then they could get... The polymorph maybe gives them emotions, which is why he turns into an evil granny with 2 shotguns. Not 2 shotguns, 2 pistols. I think it's a weird polymorph thing where he takes things and puts different things in the characters. That's the theory.
Okay, so similar sort of thing to what you're saying, but it doesn't need to actually give them an emotion. When it takes one thing away, it gives them the ability to do things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do anyway.
Yeah.
Such as in the earlier series when it took away Lister's fear. It gave him bravery by default by taking the fear away.
Yeah.
It didn't need to give him anything. That's just what was there as a result of the fear being taken away. So yeah, I think that could well be what we're talking about there.
Okay. Episode 4. This might be more of a discussion point. Officer Rimmer.
Right, so that's the one where there's the 4 Rimmer Barbershop Quartet dudes.
Maybe they go back into Better Than Life and it works this time, something like that, because the background with the 4 Rimmers and he becomes an officer. Yeah, maybe they go back into Better Than Life and it goes better for him this time.
Okay.
I think canonically, Better Than Life cannot go better for people. Because if it's going well, you stay in it and you die. While that did look like the same restaurant scenery, I don't think they're going to go back into Better Than Life. But it could be that they go into an AR game, which is a lower level sort of Better Than Life thing, because they were able to get out of Gunmen of the Apocalypse. Well, they were when the virus wasn't stopping them from clapping their hands and stuff. So it's definitely, it's a possibility, but I think it's unlikely that they'd do Better Than Life.
Okay. Episode 5. Crisis. Spelt Krysis.
That's got to be the one where he's dressed like an idiot, the pink one.
Possibly also the same one where he punches Lister. Although that could be polymorph as well.
Yes,
So-
true.
Why are we thinking that? Obviously because of Cry, but Crisis.
Because there's nothing else that screams something goes wrong with Crichton other than the punch and the dancing Power Ranger.
Okay. So that was Crisis. And finally, the episode that finishes Red Dwarf 11 is Can of Worms.
Okay.
Didn't see any worms.
Yeah, when you open up a can of worms, it's a metaphor usually, Mark.
True. Right, so I'm going to go back and say Samsara is the name of a character in the AR where they're playing gangsters.
Okay.
But I've
Could
got
be.
nothing for Can of Worms.
I think Can of Worms could be the name of a character that they meet in the episode.
Excellent. Okay. So, general thoughts then on what you think Red Dwarf 11 is going to bring you. Mark first.
I'm really excited. I want to be right so badly about the polymorph. I may not have got the right episode title or whatever. Maybe the polymorph's called Samsara. I don't know. But I'm really excited if there's a polymorph, because both of the episodes with polymorphs in are absolute favourites of mine. Howled with laughter at both of them. So if that's true, I'm really looking forward to it. But I just think in general, this looks so much fun. And I like that, again, they've not really put anything in there that's spectacular, like a dinosaur foot. Forget a fucking soundbite for me. But they've not put in anything particularly kind of crazy. But I am invested. So bring it on. Bring it on as soon as possible.
I think these credits make it look like it's a darker, more action-filled series than Series 10 may well have been.
I agree.
I might be totally wrong. When we watch Series 10, it might be dark and action-filled anyway.
Well, what I will say is you've heard me say a few times that Doug Naylor swings. He goes from...
That's what the pineapple's for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He goes from like sort of the original how Red Dwarf does to drama to he just keeps swinging backwards and forwards. So that's not me spoiling anything at all. You've picked that up on say Red Dwarf 11. I won't say anything if there is that kind of an element to it, but I've mentioned it before in the past that he does that. So, you know, it's to be expected. Cool. He will go down this dramatic, darker route sometimes. So, you mentioned like Back to Earth and the fall in this trailer. There's where they get shot. That seems to be very Back to Earthy with Blade Runner, that kind of thing. So, what about you, Colin, for Red Dwarf 11? Then, really, is it just that idea, that dramatic thing? Maybe how you feel?
I think so. Yeah, looks like it's going to be an action-filled series. It looks like it's going to be great again. Let's go for it.
Okay. Well, join us next time in these bunch of 3 specials that we're doing on Red Dwarf 12, which was released in 2017. So until next time, we are not doing social medias because
we'll do it next episode.
Sod them off until next week.
Yep.
All I've got to say is
pineapples.
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast, was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North. You can find us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod, and we are part of the We Made This Podcast network.
Hi, I'm Colin.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Tracy.
And we dig music.
Just not always the same music.
Each episode, we pick our 10 favourite songs from a specific year, rate them, and then battle it out over a top 30 countdown.
Colin's pretty enthusiastic about most stuff, Ian less so.
And Tracy definitely owns a thesaurus. And one of us will regularly be told to fuck off.
So join us each month to hear what we dig and what we don't. Listen to We Dig Music wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on wedigpodcast.com, or we're on the We Made This Podcast network, which you can find at wemadethisnetwork.com.